Hello, 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 ladies and gentlemen. If you don't know who I am, my name is Shook. Make videos for NBA. Make videos. I keep saying NFL, but there's no NFL anymore. But all these videos they get posted on this subreddit right here. It's called DF Sports with one S. I'll just have a link to this down below. You can ask me questions about the slate. People talk strategy here. It's a really, really great place to be. So that'd be linked down below. And if you ever need to get a hold of me privately, you can get a hold of me on Twitter right here as well. All right, let's recap my lineup from tonight. My lineups from tonight to Showdown. This was Showdown. Showdown core was Sabonis, Bam Adebayo, DeLon Wright. I don't know how half the field faded $1,000 starting point guard DeLon Wright. That did not make a ton of sense to me. Um, wild, wild. Yeah, did not understand that one. And the main slate went well as well. My core absolutely nuked it tonight. Jalen Brunson core play. What else was a core play? Bam Adebayo core play. DeLon Wright core play, and then I told everyone to get to at least one of Jamie Jackas Jr. or Duncan Robinson. I played both. I played 5 Heat, played Scotty Barnes and Dennis Schroeder. Yeah, cashed without Matherin, who went for 175 fantasy points. That game from him was wild. He's 50% owned too. I thought I was dead, but yeah, ended up cashing without a player that was 50% owned and went for 12x at almost $6,000. So, yeah, not going to complain about tonight. It was a good night. Hopefully, you guys had a great night as well. And let's just hop right into the slate. Warriors at Washington's. Chris Paul is going to be back. I mean, we'll monitor what they're going to do here, but with Chris Paul back, it's going to hurt everyone, right? It's going to hurt like Podzemski, possibly hurt Klay Thompson, the wings. Yeah, it's going to hurt possibly Kuminga, even though Kuminga's minutes have been down of late. It's a really good spot here going up against Washington. I can tell you that I do like Steph Curry for tournaments. I mean, it's just such a dream spot. I know he's been really, really bad, but his ownership is always really, really low, and we know the ceiling he has. This is a matchup where he could absolutely nuke. So, like, yeah, I do like Steph Curry quite a bit for tournaments here. Draymond Green at the 5, I think, is a decent option as well, as long as he can stay out of foul trouble. Just very, very safe. And like I said, Kuminga's minutes have been down. We have Chris Paul coming back, so it's going to hurt everyone else. I don't think I'm going to prioritize really anyone else here. If Chris Paul was out, then I'd be pretty high on a lot of the plays here. But yeah, Chris Paul coming back definitely going to hurt some things. I believe his conditioning's been good too. It's only hand injury, so I think he'll be full go here. The Warriors haven't yet specified that. I mean, it's his hand. So we'll see. Maybe we'll get news closer to lock about that. Not entirely sure. Moving on to Washington. I mean, really tough to say right now. We have Bale out. We have Kispert questionable. Shamit questionable. Denny questionable. He missed last game. If we get a scenario where Denny is out and Bale is out, I would assume they just move Jordan Poole back in the starting lineup. So they do like a starting lineup of Tyus Jones, Jordan Poole, Kyle Kuzma, Marvin Bagley, Landry Shamit would be my guess of the starting lineup. I mean, if that's the case, if you're into revenge narratives, I think Poole's a decent option. He's been playing a lot better, even off the bench. Had a huge game last game. With Denny out, I think Kuzma's fine at 7.4K, much higher ceiling. He should be able to feast on this Warriors team. So I'd like Kuzma there. And then Tyus, they're running a really tight rotation right now in competitive games. His potentials have been way up. I think he's a solid option at 6.2K. And then I think there's some value here. Like, with these guys out, Corey Kispert's going to have to play decent minutes off the bench. I don't mind him for value at 4.5K. And then the guy who saw the significant bump last game was Landry Shamet. I know it's disgusting, but he played 37 minutes last game. Now you have Bale out. So, yeah, I think there's going to be a decent amount to like here, especially with the value. Johnny Davis with Bale, and if Denny's out, is going to have to play a decent amount too. So yeah, we're definitely gonna have some value here. Keep an eye on this. I'll make updates on Reddit when we do get this news because a lot of stuff is gonna change. If we get a situation where like, Kisper and Shamit are out, like, we're definitely gonna have some value there. Moving on to Brooklyn's. Ben Simmons is out for this game. We'll keep an eye on Cam Thomas. So with Ben Simmons out, I would expect Dennis Schroeder to start. I think he stands out as a really good value here. Was on pace to play huge minutes. I think Ben got hurt during the game, right? or I think this was announced before. I'm not entirely sure. But he was on pace to play big minutes. With no Ben Simmons, I would expect, around 30 minutes. He's a good point per minute guy, 4.8K. I do think he stands out as a really, really solid value at that price point. And then if Cam Thomas is out, you're probably going to see a bump for Lonnie Walker there. And then the main guys in this matchup don't love, like Mikel's fine at 7-1. If Cam Thomas is out, then that changes some things. Then Mikel's gonna have to just dominate the usage here. Claxton tonight only played 21 minutes. He was in foul trouble. Normally should play over 30 minutes. Not a good matchup, but fine for tournaments. Cam Johnson at 4-8. No thank you, especially if Cam Thomas is in. And like I said, I really like Dennis Schroeder. And then if Ben Simmons is, or if Cam Thomas is out, we'll see. Dorian Finney-Smith might have to play a decent amount as well. I actually don't mind him at 4K either. And then if, like I said, Cam Thomas is out, you're going to see more run for, a guy like Lonnie Walker at 3.9K. And then we'll just monitor what they do with the starting lineup there. So, yeah, let's move on to Orlando here. Paolo Banchero is questionable for this game. Jonathan Isaac got hurt, but nothing came up in the MRI. If we get Paolo out, Fran's going to dominate the usage here. I think he'd be a very, very safe play at this price point. They kind of got blown out last game by Atlanta, but he should play huge minutes to dominate usage here. So I would like Franz at 7.8K. I think he'd be a very solid option in the mid-range. They started Goga Patate last game with Wendell Jr. at the 4. If they do that again, you can go to Goga, but the minutes weren't too great there. Mo didn't really get a bump either from that as well. And then Wendell Jr. at 5.3, I think is fine. If Paolo's in, then we know, Wendell Jr. And Mo, they're going to split the center position. Sometimes they'll run 3 centers, so it would just be pretty tricky there. Gary Harris at 3.7, I'm sure we'll have some better value there. And then I believe we start Anthony Black as well. No way I'm touching Anthony Black. Just absolutely no way. So yeah, keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on Paolo. Could open up some more stuff there. Moving on to Dallas. Not a good spot here, but I mean, looking at the spend ups on the slate, I think Giannis is definitely my favorite. But outside of that, it's just him and Luka up at this 10K range. So like, Luka's always going to be a decent option no matter the matchup he's in. So I definitely prefer him to Kyrie point per dollar. Don't love much else here. Exum's doubtful. Everyone else is probable. We know Lively and Gafford, they're going to kind of split the center position. Tim Hardaway Jr. has a ceiling off the bench, but I just don't like much here in a really, really tough spot. I think main interest here is just, Luka. I guess PJ Washington's fine at 5-1, but his usage rate on this Dallas team with Kyrie and Luka just taking up all the usage is really, really low. So I don't know if the ceiling is technically there with PJ there. Moving on to Cleveland, so I think there's a good amount to like here with Evan Mobley at 7.1K. Jared Allen should be able to feast here as well. So I think the bigs both look pretty solid at their price points. Donovan Mitchell, I do like going up against Dallas. He's playing huge minutes, dominating the usage, stuffing the stat sheet. And I think Garland is decent at 6.8K as well. So I think the main 4 guys here definitely look good. No priorities, but I think, if you land on one as the last piece, and I do think they're pretty good plays. I think the bigs will probably pick up some ownership tomorrow. As they should. I think they are very solid plays. I don't know if I get to much else with everyone healthy. Levert's priced right. Strus is priced right. I'm not going to touch the value here. Who's messaging me? Moving on to the Sixers. Joel Embiid out. I mean, I know there's blowout risk here. I know it's a really, really tough matchup, but sub 9K Tyrese Maxey with the team to himself. If this game stays competitive, it's going to be an absolute monster game from Tyrese Maxey. So, yeah, I really like Tyrese Maxey for tournaments. I know it's a really tough spot, but you got to think, if they do keep this game close and you are playing for a competitive game, Tyrese Maxey is going to nuke at that price point. Tobias Harris still definitely does feel priced right for me, so I don't love that. Same with Buddy Hield. We have Melton back. That's going to hurt. Like I said, Hield, Oubre. I'm not going to play Melton. Paul Reed should have to play a ton in this matchup. He's been on pace for big minutes, back-to-back games. This game, he was in foul trouble plus the blowout. This game, he was in foul trouble, so plus a blowout as well. So back-to-back games, he's been on pace for big minutes. I think they're going to need him out there. And at 5.6K, I don't think a ton of people are going to click on him. So I do think Paul Reed is pretty sneaky in tournaments, and I don't think I'm going to go to much else here. I think that's it for the Sixers. Let's move on to Boston. Don't look much. You guys know when this team's healthy, there's just not much I look forward to here. If you want to go to like a sub 10K Tatum, it's fine. I think my favorite play once again is probably going to be Kristaps Porzingis at 7.5K at his price point. I think he looks the best to me outside of Tatum. I think Brown's priced right, even though he had a massive game last game. I thought he did better than that, but Don't love much here. No standouts here. If you want to land at like a Porzingis or a Tatum, I think it's fine. All right, this is a game where we can definitely get some plays. This is probably my favorite game to target on the slate. Really good matchup here for both sides. I think Markkanen looks great. I really like Jordan Clarkson at 6K. They're running a really tight rotation of like Clarkson's playing over 30 minutes in every single game so far. Really good matchup. I really like Clarkson. I think Collins at the 5 is a decent option as well. Like I said, I really like Laurie Markkanen at 8.1K. I think Sexton's fine. Keontae George I'm still high on, even at 5.7K. He's just been shooting horribly. I even think there's some value here. Hendricks has been starting. He's a solid value. Chris Dunn should play around 20 minutes. I don't mind him for value. So this Utah team just looks fantastic to me. I'm really high on this Utah team. I'm high on this Atlanta team. Really good spot here. Once again, DeJounte Murray is the best spend upon the slate. I absolutely love him. Okongu's still out, so Capella's still going to be on a limit. They're going to play a ton of Jalen Johnson at the 5. I like him quite a bit at 7.9K. Bogey, I still like a lot, even at 6.3K. It's just not as good of a play as he once was, but Utah's weakness is giving up 3-pointers, so it's just a god spot for Bogey. I still really like him at that price point. I'm going to keep mentioning DeAndre Hunter because they're closing with him, and they're closing with Jalen Johnson at the 5, and he keeps smashing, so I'll just continue to mention that. Sadiq Bey's fine at 5'9". I think I prefer like Bogey and those guys. Bruno's going to get a little bit of run, but yeah, this game looks phenomenal. Moving on to the Pelicans. So if CJ and Zion are in up against the Knicks, I don't love too much here. The main guys, they're in play. Everyone else is just overpriced. If we get the main guys out, then Brandon Ingram looks like one of the better plays in the mid-range. I really like Trey Murphy. Herb Jones is going to play around 40 minutes. Good defender. He will be very, very safe. Hawkins, you would think, would have to play a decent amount. And then Matt Ryan. We do have Najee Marshall back, but they played Matt Ryan over Hawkins last game. I did not understand that at all. But Dyson out, Alvarado out. If they're both out, definitely going to be some value here. And like I said, if they're both in, not too much I like from the Pelicans. Moving on to the Knicks. So, not a good spot here, but I mean, Brunson's usage rate is just absolutely absurd. Him, no matter the matchup, I'm always going to like Jalen Brunson, right? So, still, really like Brunson there. Now, I'd rather play DeJounte Murray for cheaper, but yeah, I think Brunson's still a pretty good play. Dante's still overpriced. Precious going to lose minutes with Hartenstein gaining minutes now. It is a back-to-back. Did he play last back-to-back? I'm not entirely sure. Maybe he could sit here. If he sits, Precious will play all the minutes he can handle. I think Josh Hart is very, very safe. He's going to play the entire game, statue stuffer. So I don't mind Hart. He would be my second favorite play outside of Jalen Brunson. I don't think I'm going to go to much else here. All right, last set of games, guys. So one thing I do want to note here is the Pistons ran a much tighter rotation tonight. It's a back-to-back, so we'll see. But as you can see, they played their main guys huge minutes here. Now, I don't know if it's going to happen again. And they said Cade was going to be on a limit, but randomly played 36 tonight. I don't know what that was about. But if we get a similar rotation to tonight, and they do a similar rotation to tomorrow, then I think Cade's fine at 8.1K. I think, Ivy didn't really play much tonight. Alzer would be very, very safe at 5'6" and no way to back game tonight. And Simone's playable. Quentin Grimes, viable value as well, 4.1K. Don't think I get to much else. Still no standouts, but like guys would at least be playable. This is another team I think looks pretty good here. Craig's going to continue to be out. They're playing Ayo Dosunmu all the minutes he can handle. Caruso should play over 30 minutes. I think both Caruso and Ayo are both decent options at their price point. Prefer Ayo to Caruso. I'm pretty high on the main guys here. I think they're all too cheap in this matchup. Kobe White, DeMar DeRozan, Vooch, I think all look very, very solid. I like all three quite a bit. If you want to decide which one's your favorite, just go to the lowest owned option. I think they all look pretty similar given the price points. If you want my favorite, not factoring in any ownership right now, I think it's Vooch. But I think they all look very, very good in this matchup. Moving on to the Spurs, going up against the Timberwolves. Tough matchup here. I think Wemby's still in play at 9.9K. Just a really, really bad matchup. I don't like much else here, though. Sochan's fine, but Keldon got hurt last game. Don't love much else. Basically, just Wemby up at the top for me. Minnesota's. We'll keep an eye on Rudy Gobert news. If he's out, Kyle Anderson's going to shoot up to a really solid value. And then Naz Reid would be playable, but the price is up to 5.7K. But he got hurt. He was on pace to play a bit more. I would say he'd probably have to play 25 to 30 minutes. So he still has a ceiling, but not as good of a play as he once was at that price point. And then I would love Cat at 8.2K. His rates at the 5 compared to the 4 are much, much better. So I'd really like Cat there, and I think Ant is a decent option anyway. If Gobert's in, I like the main three guys. I don't like much else. I think Conley's fine at 5.5K, and then yeah, I wouldn't like much else. All right, last game here, guys. So I think Miles Bridges is okay. I think the guards are fine here, and like Mitchich, a fine value. Man at 5.6, I think is solid. Just a really, really good spot for the guards. Nick Richards, they might need him out there more. I don't know if they can close with Grant Williams here. We saw Nick Richards play more against Portland last game, so I think Nick Richards is a bit intriguing if you think he can stay out of foul trouble. Like I said, I think they might need him out there. I don't know if they can close with Grant in this spot. I don't love Grant at that price point, and yeah, like Miles, Brendan Miller's fine, and then I think the guards are a bit intriguing. All right, moving on to Milwaukee. So Middleton's out. I absolutely love Giannis. I think if you're spending all the way up at the top, I think he's your best option there. Dame, I think, is decent as well as at 8.6K. And a guy I'm pretty high on here in tournaments that I don't think a ton of people are going to be on here is Brook Lopez at 6K. In a competitive game, he is playing close to 40 minutes, and I don't think the field is recognizing that. Now you have a really good spot here up against Charlotte. So Brook Lopez is definitely a guy I'm high on in tournaments. I'm not going to get to much else here. So that's going to wrap it up for the slate. I hope you guys had a great night tonight, and I will talk to y'all in the next video.